Yeah.
But to put things into context, a bit like Saddam Hussein. Saddam Hussein's a dictator, but by the standards of the Arab region, he was actually a liberal. He educated his people, looked after them, yeah? And if you were to compare fascism with communism, Stalin killed far more. Mao killed far more. Pol Pot, yeah? And so what I'm saying here is that for some reason they've had...
What you mean, communism actually killed more people than fascism, you mean?
Yeah, far more.
Yeah.
Stalin, his death camps and everything else, yeah?
Yeah.
Talking tens of millions died in those death
But is that because of due to actual communism or fascism, or is that just due to
any system is run by human beings, and it depends upon the good hearts of the human beings to put that into practice, yeah? So, but I think that what I'm trying to say as well, though, is the inherent failure is in communism because it's group consciousness. Groups don't have souls. They do all sorts of terrible things. When people are in a group, they don't take responsibility. If things go wrong, they think, I never really thought that. It was him. He was arguing. I voted against it. Well, if you voted against it, get out of the group, for Christ's sake. You know, that's your spiritual duty. If a group does something you disagree with, get out of it. Don't stay in it. But the idea of group consciousness is someone somewhere else is responsible. You're not really responsible. Whereas a single man will take responsibility for his actions because he's got a conscience. You know, eventually he will look at himself and think, what the hell have I been doing here? But in a group like the New World Order, the Zionists, he will be insulated from his conscience by other people saying, no, it's perfectly okay to go bomb Afghanistan, drop white phosphorus on kids and so on. I mean, it even works on the level of our cabinet. You know, Blair's clearly decided, or when he was in power, that it was okay for that to happen. Because he's in a group, he's got people saying to him, no, we've got to stop these evil terrorists and so on.
It's almost like a group initiates a sort of autopilot thing, a mentality, you know, instead of, yeah.
Yeah, no, I've experienced myself where a group will turn on you, and it's quite frightening to watch how you suddenly get this group conscious, the group thing. Nobody's individually responsible for actions. They're all foaming at you and things like that.
Yeah, because they expect everybody to be homogenous, to be the same, to think the same, to do exactly the same. And if there's a little bit of a difference of opinion, oh my goodness, everything falls up. Oh, you're threatening to fall, to get the whole group to fall apart.
Yeah, no, the stability of the group is the main thing. Yeah, and that's why they don't like people leaving, because obviously groups don't like to get small. They see that as a sign of weakness. So they'll try and keep you in and keep you in, but it gets to a point where your presence there is so destabilising they will expel you, basically. That's the point. That's how groups work.
Yes.
And so the reason they pushed communism is, in this day and age, we've actually grown up where people will say things, I'm a Stalinist. You know, if somebody turned around to you...
They actually say that? They're the Stalinists? No. Because I know that in the Conservative Party, there's a lot of Marxists. You know, but Marxism, it's quite fashionable to say that you're a Marxist.
Yeah, I mean, well, Marx himself said at the end of his life, you know, I'm anything but a Marxist, basically.
You're joking.
No, he said that, yeah. And people misunderstood Marx. Again, if you read the Communist Manifesto, there's an air of inevitability about it. He's saying this is inevitable. These economic forces will inevitably bring about proletarian revolution. And in fact, it doesn't happen like that. Where you have the revolution, they're not actually proletarian at all. They're actually in countries which have massive agricultural economies rather than urban economies, basically. And again, this is what it's all about. The whole communism was all about the urban proletariat, getting people off the land into the factories. And that's what they want to do. They want to disconnect us from nature, basically. And I point out the old model of kingship was authoritarian, but the word authoritarian doesn't mean bad. It just means the king has authority without having to consult a council of barons or whatever, yeah? So, and I say, any single man will be pricked by his conscience. In the past, the model in the Bible, King David and so on, they were wise kings. They made sure their people were fed. They sorted out disputes amongst them. They were there to serve the people. It's only after Norman conquest, when they introduced feudalism, that we have the idea of the king being at the top of the pile and he can take all he wants and so on. So, I'm very much with John Harris on this one, that benign dictatorship is the way forward, as long as that dictator is influenced by God, basically. And that's where I come in with my Jesus Christ hat on. I would be a benign dictator, but I'd be guided by God. I say, there's nothing wrong with a dictator. The precedent in Rome with Cincinnatus, a previous incarnation of Jesus' soul, one of my previous lives, was brought in to sort out the problems of the squabbling senators and so on in Rome. He was given something like 6 or 9 months of autocratic rule, so he could just do what he wanted to clear up the problems. In his allotted time, he clears up all the problems, Rome recovers, but he's made the agreement that he'll then step down, and he does. And this is a test, obviously, that you see that you've sorted all these problems out, you know these bloody idiots are going to come back in group conscious, they're going to mess it all up again, they're going to start exploiting people again and so on, but you walk away because that was your divine mission. And you've got to deal with that, obviously. But I say there's so many precedents where authority, used properly, can sort things out. Now, at the moment, democracy is just, you know, it's a way of dividing and conquering. The different aspects of government, the legislature, the executive, the judiciary, they play off against each other. And any idea can...
And diluting any real power sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Any positive sort of power and making it all negative somehow.
Yeah, so we can't, and say democracy is a form of group consciousness. You know, if you go into an election and vote, and the government...
the rule of the mob sort of thing.
Well, people will say that that's one of the ways of translating democracy, the rule of the mob, and in some ways it does look very much like that. I mean, I always say there's a very fine line between a vigorous democracy and mob rule, basically. But the experience of democracy, it should have been the very best thing for mankind. You know, a free press in a democracy should have saved us. But actually, they've been the very worst thing. We have lived under the greatest injustices on this planet in recent times. I.e., elements of the American government murdered in broad daylight 3,000 people and then blamed a whole lot of other people. Cheers, Bob.
Okay, bye-bye.
And they've got away with it. And not only got away with it, they've been bombing a whole lot of innocent people. This is, in terms of injustice, this is enormous on the planet, yeah? And where's our democracy there? Where's our free press? Why aren't they exposing these things? And you realise that every system has to be tested. And in fact, democracy is the very worst, because you can go to any situation with any good idea, and all they'll do is roll it out to a bunch of munchkins and go, you can't do that, you can't do that, and it gets shot down, basically, before anybody even discusses it properly or anything else, yeah? They're very good at having opinion polls when people don't know anything. What do you think about this?
Well, I suppose, like you said, all religions, all political systems can be hijacked and are...
Every time a law is passed, they look at it and think, right, how can we use this for our own ends? And that's the way it's interpreted in the courts, because the courts are on their side and so on. So all systems of laws do not work, because they can be deliberately misinterpreted against the public good, yeah?
Yeah, and abused.
Yeah. Whereas things like...
And they are not rigorous, is the right, rigid. You know,
well, they are rigid.
Again, it's a community. It's a group consciousness thing.
Yeah.
It's not looking at every individual case, but it's like assuming that you've got to have these mass rules, you know, that apply to everyone. But people are individuals, and they have to be assessed on an individual basis. And there's this assumption that you can't assess things on an individual, that it would take too much time, and it's not enough control. That you have to control the masses all the time. Yeah. But you just control yourself. Anarchy, really.
The true meaning of anarchy is without government, isn't it?
Sorry?
It's without rulers, without government.
Yes, exactly. That people are, you know, if people take responsibility for themselves and you know, this common law stuff, then it's perfectly, and it has worked in the past in the Spanish Civil War, before fascism took over, before the fascists defeated the anarchists. Apparently they were quite successful. They successfully governed themselves, and peacefully and without violence and everything. But of course the fascists had more weapons and just bombarded. Of course, because the
fascists be backed by the New World Order in that circumstance.
Yes.
You can't have people coming out with the common law. They try as much as possible to shut people up. Sorry, I'm going at the moment. Just leaving through.